basically, so recording now. We're going to start just with a brief introduction for myself included, because I've only known you over Twitter. So, Bradley, we'll start with you. Where are you from, and how long have you been a Leeds fan?
I'm from Leeds. Being a Leeds fan all my life, it's kind of impossible not to be a Leeds fan when you're born here, especially like 10 minutes walk from ground. Yeah, literally a
Jealous.
Leeds fan all my life.
10 minutes from the ground.
I know, yeah, stone throw away.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So when you say 10 minutes from the ground, like literally 10 minutes from the ground,
Yeah, like 10 minutes.
that's ace.
Like if we're kicking off at 3, I can set off about quarter to.
No, that's great. Because where I'm from, if we're kicking off at 3, I've got to set off at like 9. So
Oh, that's a long day, innit?
yeah,
Especially...
getting the coach and stuff up. But yeah, so are you a season ticket holder? Just
No, just a member, yeah.
It's very difficult to be a season ticket. I think what is it? There's something like, what's the ground? 36,000 and something, and there's like 25,000 season ticket holders,
Yeah.
which is.
I think the waiting list is about 20,000, and don't know whereabouts
nuts.
I am on it, but I only joined it like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law are all Leeds Gold Plus members, and there's like 75,000 of us, which is just insane. So it's very difficult. And yourself, name, where you from? How long you been a Leeds fan?
Jer from Ireland, just north of Dublin. Been a Leeds fan my whole life. My dad was a Leeds fan from the 70s team, from Reeves team, so it was inherited. I didn't get a huge choice in it. I wanted to be an Arsenal fan when I was a kid, and he kept buying me Leeds jerseys. So that was like a very clear message being sent. So been a Leeds fan since I was that height. But but not close to the ground like Bradley. Unfortunately, I have to get a flight at 9 a.m. across, and then hopefully get home before midnight if I'm lucky. So similar to you, Josh. But still a great. We have a Ryanair flight that goes across, and it's usually full of Leeds fans going over and back, so it can be chaos at times, but it's good.
You know, just touching on, and not to get off on too much of a tangent, I went for a stag do in Dublin. I think that's where we were. I can't remember too much, to be fair. No,
Must have been good then.
Yeah, no, it was in Dublin, and honestly, the first day we were there, I went in like shorts and t-shirt and thought, oh, we'll get to the hotel, I'll change. So I just wore my Leeds top because it's just they're so comfortable, and it was stag do, so it was like literally lob your bag in the room, out to the pub, and I was like, can I get changed? And they were just like, no, straight out. I was like, dude, I'm wearing a Leeds top. I was like, I don't know how I'd... And honestly, the amount of people that walked past that were just old, and I was Dublin is full of Leeds fans. This is amazing.
I think it's like the third or fourth most supported team in Ireland, and it used to be like first or second before the last 15 years in Man City. But yeah, it used to be like Man United, Liverpool, Leeds. That was it. That was the core group of fans here.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult because it's hard, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, Man City have such a massive following. Well, they do when they're winning, at least. That might be a bit controversial, but not to Leeds fans. It's, you know, it's you find when you speak to a Leeds fan, there's a story behind. There's a reason they're a Leeds fan. It's not just, oh, I picked this team because they were winning, which is exactly why 90%... Anybody born in the last 15 years that supports Man City is because they've been a top team. It's literally that simple. In my opinion, again, might be unpopular, but to other Leeds fans, you know, nobody really knows the history, whereas, like you say, with your dad, my dad was a Leeds fan, and I grew up as a Leeds fan, and going to see the likes of Viduka and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank at Ellen Road, and I mean, those were amazing days for Leeds, like amazing days. And we're going to get into a lot more, obviously, as it goes out, but thank you both for joining us today here on the first Leeds Lounge podcast. And I say first because I hope it's the first of many. I don't really care if anybody doesn't watch, to be honest. I might just organise this stuff to have a chat and a few beers and post-match interviews and stuff like that. So it'd be pretty cool. So we're going to crack on with the topics that I've sent you. And they're all going to be slightly informal, obviously. But last season, it wasn't great, and that's probably an understatement. So, Bradley, I'm going to ask you first. At the beginning of last season, did you think that's where we would be towards the end?
Absolutely not, no. I mean, after the first season we had, obviously, you never really, like now, I'm a bit pessimistic thinking, oh, what if we get lots of injuries, for 22-23 season. But last season, going into it, I'm sat and I'm thinking, we might have a chance of like Conference League here or even Europa League, if we had a couple of signings and stuff, just based on how well we played.
Yeah.
And it were quite clear from, like, when I think back, like, I went to Fulham away in the Cup, and albeit we played a second string team, you could see then that we were just struggling to create chances and stuff even against like weaker opposition.
Yeah.
And then as the weeks went on, even this is before like the peak of like the injuries that we had, it just didn't seem to be clicking.
Yeah.
But I thought we'd be at least competing for Europe, and
Yeah.
wouldn't have been any
No.
different.
I completely agree. Your thoughts? Yeah.
Similar enough. At the very beginning, after the previous season finished, you thought add 2 or 3 more players to this squad, and you're looking at 7th, 8th, maybe. And the promises of, we'll survive the first year of the Premier League, and then we're pushing for Europe from the board and Rads, and you're thinking, yeah, okay, this all the right things are being said here. And then you look at the recruitment they brought in last year, and you're going, we're a bit light. We haven't really added much to it. The players we brought in the previous season that we hoped were going to be the big ones, like Rodrigo, didn't really click, and then you're relying more heavily on them. And then once the injuries start kicking in, even in the first couple of months of the season, you're thinking to yourself, we don't do something in January, this could be a long, long, long season. I'm in the pessimistic group of Leeds fans on a regular occasion. I was like, I don't like to look at this. I think we're threadbare. I think we're over relying on the kids.
Is anybody in the optimistic band of the Leeds fans? Because I haven't quite seen it yet. So
I have a nice like little vicious circle that I go by. So this is last season anyway. So I'm furious. It gets to Friday, I watch a press conference stuff, and I'm thinking, we could get something tomorrow, and then we play like trash. And then I'm fuming again for a week, and then it gets to Friday, and I'm, we might get something here. And then I'm fuming for a week. So yeah, slightly optimistic until full time.
Yeah.
They call that a vocation, isn't it? You're not a supporter. This is a vocation. Like you're doing it, but it's not always going to be fun. And more often than not, it's going to hurt you. But you'll come back tomorrow. It's exactly the same. We used to watch all the press conference thinking, okay, this sounds good. This is, it's going to click at some point. It has to click. Players that are, to use the word click, players that are playing beneath themselves. And Mateus was one for a while last year. Thinking, as soon as he gets it right, as soon as he gets his, settles down, they'll be fine. And then the following week, they'll be fine. And then the following week, they'll be fine. This is not getting any better. This is getting worse. And yeah, I think exactly the same. By the end of the season, it's nearly like having PTSD. You're like, please, this week, let's give us I'll take a draw. I'm happy with a 0-0 if we can get a 0-0.
Yeah.
So my points mainly on the league are pretty much similar to yourselves. The only thing I think differently is that pre-season, obviously we didn't know at the time, but pre-season was just a foreshadowing of what the season was going to be, because our pre-season was horrendous. It was so bad. Now, yes, okay, you can talk about the season. We got massively unlucky with, injuries and things like that. It brings me back to like the Wolves game, where we were 2-0 down, we won 3-2, and Aylin nearly kicked Koch in the head twice in his celebration, but I completely understand it. Like, so many people are complaining about that sending off for them, and I was like, we just had 4 of our starting 11 come back from injury, and within 10 minutes go off injured, and you're complaining that you were down to 10 men. I mean, Wolves at that point were on a rampage. I mean, they were doing so well, but the mighty whites come and everybody underestimates them. So I don't think we deserve to be where we were. I really, really don't. And again, with Bielsa and Marsh and stuff, we'll touch on that later. a lot of things played into why we ended up where we ended up last season. But at the same time, the team that deserved to stay up. And I know it's easy to say that as a Leeds fan, and you two will agree with me because you're Leeds fans. But when you look at the likes of Burnley, they've scrimped and scraped for 5 years. Like they've never done, like 6th, 8th, 9th. They've always been down there and got through every year. And it could have been any other team, but last season was a Leeds season. In my head, it was a Leeds season because it ended exactly how it would end for Leeds.
Drama.
Exactly, yes, drama. And as well, look at all the records, the really stupid records. Do you remember last season where they were saying under Bielsa, every time Leeds have been leading at half-time, they've never lost?
Yeah.
Just really, really silly records. And then, in true Leeds fashion, and thankfully, we break another record that no team in Premier League history has been in the bottom 3 on the last game and stayed up. And Leeds did. Now, whether you think Pontus Jansson kind of backed off a little bit, help us out, which would have been kind of nice to think about, but it was a dramatic game. I didn't expect to be where we were. Because, I mean, in all honesty, when we beat West Ham before Christmas, I thought we're safe. Getting 3 points there, that's massive. We're safe.
I didn't think we were safe, but I thought we were definitely about to turn a corner.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think we went and lost like the next 3 games. So, But
how many times last season did you say after a positive result, this is it? This is where it starts to turn. And then the following week, you're like, oh god, here we go.
I wouldn't need to work if I had a positive mind frame after a goal or a pass or a cross or whatever. The fact that we managed to actually score from a set piece last season, I was buzzing because the season before it was damn near impossible.
Sol Bamba was the last person to score a header. When we got a corner, I was like, we're not going to score from this. We haven't scored from a corner since Sol Bamba was here, so that's not going to happen.
I tell you something. I was lucky enough to be at the Brighton game, which was the last home game last season, and actually I don't know if you've seen on the Twitter, but my Rafinha shirt that's signed is it's not what you know, it's who you know. I was surprised with that. My mother got me that, to be fair. Was the shirt he wore for that Brighton game where Strauch scored that header. I mean, the scenes were just... And obviously, with how the season went, every point was so crucial. It was so crucial. Especially coming after Christmas. It was mental.
Well, you look at it now and you think, if we don't get that point in the Brighton game, we go down. Like, so many... when you look at it, like, of how we stayed up, like, all these little points and stuff that we'd scraped. And there was no margin for error.
I'm going to say something controversial. Gosh, you mentioned saying controversial things. I became a big fan of Tyrone Mings towards the back end of last season when he played against Burnley. When he blocked that shot and it was destined for an open goal and he clipped off his studs and went wide, I was like, I love that guy. That guy's just kept us up.
It's exactly the same as me. Yeah. Exactly the same as me. Not necessarily with Tyrone Mings, but I absolutely love Newcastle. I love them. I absolutely love Newcastle after last season. Because it's, the thing is, in fact, actually, this segues very, very well into the next point. So, we'll start with you again, Bradley. How it felt to stay up.
Euphoric. I mean, it was more relief than anything. I were at the box in Leeds. Like, I tried to get tickets, but it's impossible, especially with like the allocation at like 1,700. And they obviously had all games all over screens and stuff, but obviously Leeds were on big screen. And then it's when that last minute goal went in. There's people like refreshing Twitter and stuff constantly, like seeing how Burnley were getting on. That goal went in, just absolute bedlam.
Did anybody catch the fact? Sorry, go on, mate.
Sent a video from full time, like to I don't know, throw up or something now because it was just carnage.
I tell you something. When I'm watching the highlights, because I didn't go to the Brentford game because obviously it was away. It's damn near impossible to get tickets because Leeds are such passionate fans. As soon as the tickets are released, bang, they're gone. Simple as. Which is fine. Watch the game. But I find it hilarious that the Leeds fans seem to cheer more when they got the Newcastle result than they did when Rafinha scored that penalty. So I thought that was amazing.
It didn't really, well, it did matter what we did, but all we needed were like them to just lose.
We just needed them to lose,
to pick nothing up. So that's like cheered so much.
Yeah, it's
you'd have thought we scored. And the timing of the goals as well. Like, well, no, we had the Gellert goal disallowed as Newcastle went 1-0 up, didn't we?
Yeah. And then I think Burnley equalised as Harrison scored. Not long after Burnley equalised, and then not long after Harrison scored. Yeah. So yeah,
neck and neck all day.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of YouTube videos you see now that there was drama everywhere. It was like people were like neck and neck for Europe, people were neck and neck for relegation, people were neck and neck to win the league. It was like all the stars had aligned, and it was like impartial fans that just enjoy watching football must have been so spoilt with the games to watch, because it was like Man City 2-0 down against Villa. Oh my God, Liverpool need to score against Wolves. They've won the league. Wait a minute. 6 minutes later, City are winning 3-2. Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Burnley have scored one back. They only need to equalise and Leeds go down. Oh wait, Jack Harris. It was just like you couldn't keep up with everything, and it
like
was just
a Brighton fan or something.
Yeah,
like
if you're a Brighton
fan,
Brighton, Southampton, scum, because they had shit all to play for, did they?
They were that close, though. They were that close to falling into the Conference League. That they were that close. Like, oh, come on.
I know, yeah. So
I would have made the entire day. Yeah. I was in my sitting room downstairs watching it on television, and I started off sitting on my sofa. When Joffrey scored the first and was disallowed, I thought, that's okay. This is a really positive start. We haven't started like this in a good long while. This is really good. And as the game went on, I gradually moved to different parts of the room, and I finished in the far corner of my sitting room, standing, leaning against the wall, my hand over my face. And there was a moment when Canos had gotten sent off, and they'd already had a player go off injured because they'd made all their subs. And we just start dropping deeper and deeper. And I think I had a 5-year-old tantrum where I was jumping up and down going, why are we dropping? They've only got 9 players. What are we doing here? And then I think there was something shouted onto the pitch. I saw one of the guys on the bench doing this to someone on the pitch, and it was like, they've just
Jesse Marsh. Yeah, Jesse Marsh said they've got 9 men. Go forward. And I don't think a lot of people picked up on that. A lot of people give Marsh a lot of stick, but he didn't want to leave anything to chance. Leeds are not a team to drop back and defend. I'm sorry, but we're not. Give, Cooper, Strout, Llorente, Koch, all their dues. We are not a team to sit back and defend. And I don't think in Leeds history, even with legendary defenders we've had in the past, we were never the team to do that. Leeds either go for the win or it's nothing. Simple as. And that's what I love and / sometimes hate about them. But that Brentford goal, there is probably 2 times in my adult life that I have shed a tear. And that was when my daughter was born and when Harrison scored that goal. And I think, like you say, it was just all this pent-up energy of just anxiety and anticipation of what was happening. We were watching the Brentford game on the TV, and I had literally my iPad there with the Bet 365, like, where you get like the live dots about, and I was just like, and I remember turning around to my brother and father-in-law and just going, Burnley have scored. And we were so positive at that point, even though Brentford had just equalised, it was like we were still positive. It was like, this is fine, Burnley are losing, and in our head it was like, if anybody is going to score a last-minute equalising goal to put Leeds down into relegation, is Burnley. It's going to happen. And that's all we thought. And it's again like I touched on earlier on about being pessimistic. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but it's like the Leeds legend. It's
the most Leeds United thing that could happen.
Yeah, that's exactly the term. That's the most Leeds thing to happen.
Have you guys seen the Amazon documentary?
Oh, God,
yeah. Multiple times.
And it was just the guy on there. I can't remember his name, but he's ace. He's so passionate, like every Leeds fan. And he's like, we're playing great football. We're winning games. And we get hit with a global pandemic. It's the most Leeds thing to happen to Leeds United. And he's right. He's completely right. He's completely right. Leeds are winning the championship. Absolutely. 12 points clear. Battering teams. Oh, no, we're on lockdown. Football's cancelled. What?
Talks at season being cancelled and stuff.
The only thing that would have been more Leeds to happen to Leeds is if they'd decided, actually, scrap this season, we'll start again. Which I'm really glad they didn't. Because I honestly thought that that's what was going to happen. I thought, there's 9 games left to play. Surely they can't scrap the season. They've just got to play them later. Please, for the love.
It's us again, Leeds. Once we're doing well and it goes to a vote in the EFL, every single club is going to go, no, scrap the season, restart next year. Yeah. Like, you're waiting on it to go to the clubs to get their opinion on it. And the second the clubs can make a vote on it, that's us done. If we're in the ascendancy, that's the end of that. I'm delighted they didn't do it.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to pause the recording here. We're going to go into our second topic now, which is the transfers that have been confirmed. So the guys that we've seen play. So again, Bradley, I'll start with you. If you've seen any of the highlights, obviously LUTV is it either works or it doesn't. Unfortunately,
temperamental.
Yeah. So from what you've seen so far, just what are your initial? It doesn't have to be too in depth, but just what are your initial thoughts? How do you feel going into the season with the squad that we've got?
The first friendly, and I only saw the first half of the Villa game. Hour and a half, I just fell back to sleep.
Yeah.
But that first game, from the first 10 minutes, I thought we're going to be all right. Albeit against an Australian team, which we were far more superior, but it was just a team as a whole, how we were pressing, forcing them into mistakes, creating chances. Even when we were in final third, the way we were zipping it around the box, being patient, in his build-up to get a shot off and stuff. I thought, we're going to be all right here. Rocker is going to be, one of my favourite players this season, I think. He's really impressed me so far over pre-season. And Christensen as well. Yeah, he's going to become a bit of a fan favourite.
I'll tell you something. Losing Calv and getting Christensen in, I mean, that dude's a monster. He's a monster. And you can tell that he's going to get a few yellows, maybe even a couple of reds. But he's definitely got that Leeds mentality of, if you're going to get past me, you're going to have to kill me kind of mentality, which I like. I hope that Marsh kind of calms him down, works on him sort of technically. But some of the passes, I mean, his precision with some of the passes, because everybody was saying, that tit on TalkSport that doesn't know what he's on about.
Which one?
Is it that O'Hara? Is it O'Hara or whatever? When he said he's signing nobodies. Yeah, well, you didn't know Rafinha 2 years ago, mate, and he's just gone for 60 million. So shut your mouth.
He's just one of those where he doesn't know anything past the big six.
No.
Do you know what I mean? His focus is on what the big six are doing, what Tottenham are doing, and don't look at the rest of Europe or whatever.
Well, yeah.
But no,
exactly.
I think Rocker, you can tell when he's on the ball in midfield, he's just got that little bit of that extra bit of added quality, to break a line and stuff.
Yeah.
He's going to be really, really good for us, I think.
Yeah. Joe, what are your thoughts, bud?
I watched both games. I watched the second one, the Villa game, a couple of times. Exactly what Bradley said. I thought we'll get past the Bielsa stuff and the Marsh stuff, but I think if this is Marsh's style of play, attacking wise, I have no problem with this. They look good. There was plenty of players in the box. We looked like we were going to score goals. We weren't taking our chances, but you don't worry about that in pre-season. It's about, are we creating chances? Do we look like we could score? And we were. We looked really, really good. There was one little thing in the Brisbane game and then one little thing in the Villa game that I was a little bit worried about, and that was counterattacks. We seemed to be very, very open to being caught on a counterattack by a a lower a professional team in Brisbane. There was a couple of chances they scored from one as well. And we saw it again in the Villa game in the second half as well. There was a couple of breaks, and it's great to put everyone forward. But if we're not covering the back four, it's still the same centre half pairings we had last season. They were pretty brittle last year. I would have concerns about just getting caught on counter. But Marsh said it himself, I think, in the press conference after the Brisbane game, that there's still defensive shape stuff we want to work on. So, you're encouraged enough by that at least he can see the issue now as well. But going forward, I think Tyler Adams is going to be an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. Talk about replacing. I think his stats for the Villa game were like 6 tackles, 6 wins, gave away possession 0 times, and that's nice. That's tidy. I really like the look of Aronson. Really like the look of Aronson.
I'm so glad you said that because he's really stuck out for me.
Yeah, I think there's goals, and there was 2 or 3 moments against Villa. There was a little back heel around the corner that we just missed at the end. Would have been a beautiful goal. And I think once these players start to get on the same page, the link-up play between the front 4 or 5 could be something else. And I think Aronson is going to be worth every penny of his 28 million.
Yeah.
The only one I think we need to be a bit more patient with is Sinisterra, because he looks a bit uncomfortable at the moment. I don't doubt that the kid will come good and there'll be tons of quality in him. But I think we need to kind of maybe level the expectation level just a little bit with him. He's not going to be a Rafinha replacement immediately. It's going to take him a bit of time to get used to the squad and the team and how we play. He's one of the few players that hasn't played under Marsh, so that's going to take him a little bit more time as well. But even at that, I think what we brought in has been really, really clever. I think the signings have been smart, right across. It's great to have. I mean, I looked at the bench against Villa and I went, that looks healthy. There's barely any kids.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Even the fact that, we've lost 2, but the fact that we've bulked up as actual core squad, and you look at the bench and we're going to have players like, like Dallas when he comes back, Click, Ayling. We've got actual first teamers to come on rather than relying on a Charlie Cresswell or a Leif Davis or something.
Or even Archie Gray last year when he was still, when he had to change in the referee's room because he was too young to train with the first team.
Yeah, literally. He won bench for Arsenal game, wasn't
he? Yeah.
I think.
Look what O'Hara was saying about us signing nobodies, and you're going. It's such an ignorant comment where you've made no attempt to do it. You're talking about players coming from Leipzig, Salzburg. That's Conference League and Europa League. A player coming in from Feyenoord who was the young player of the tournament for the Europa Conference League in Sinisterra, scored 11 goals for Feyenoord in a European competition. He's not nobody. Mark Rock is playing for Bayern Munich. That's not a nobody either. You go. Where have you pulled that comment from? The players they brought in have European experience. They have top half league experience. Players like Christensen, Aronson, and Adams have actually got a winning history as well. They've won titles in their country. And that's massive coming into a young squad that Leeds have. If you've actually got, and the age group as well, you're looking at 23, 24, 22-year-olds coming in. There's no people in 28, 29, 30. They're all this young age group. The whole squad seems to be in and around 20 to 23, 24 years of age. And that's positive because over the next 3 or 4 years, they're all going to grow old together and going to get better together. And I think that's what I mean when I say the signings were clever. There's experience, but it's youth as well. And there's some exciting players in there. And I know we're going to get to it, but we still need a left back, still need a striker. And I personally, I like another centre half as well, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So, like you say, we're going to get into it, the whole sort of LB thing. But my major takeaway from the signings is that last season we had to play Ayling, we had to play Dallas, we had to play Cooper, we had to play Calv, we had to play Harrison. My big thing now is that I'm not saying that anybody's better than anybody, but you can reserve some of your experienced players to play out, and I think the likes of Aronson and stuff like that, and Rasmus and Rocker and even Sinisterra, like you said, there was a bit of shakiness, but I think once that lad kind of gets a grasp on it, I think he's just going to run with it. I really do see that. So I think that's the benefit. The first season in the Premier League, we did miles better than we could have ever imagined. In all honesty, from a Leeds fan, if somebody had said to you at the beginning of the season, Leeds are going to finish ninth, you'd have gone maybe 14th, but nowhere.
Yeah.
We're not going to finish top 10. It ain't happening, and we did. So, but that was coming out the Championship, and Premier League teams just weren't ready. They were not ready for the fact. You know, you got the likes of like Kyle Walker spouting on about how fit he was. Well, when we played Man City in the first season, they looked knackered after 30 minutes. And even since then, Kyle Walker and those in the England squad have said how fit Calv is. And that's all down to Bielsa. The only issue with that is that because he trained them so hard to be fit, that's why we've got the injuries. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But I'm very happy with what I've seen pre-season. At the end of the day, I take away Villa needed 2 penalties to beat us. So
we were making a hell of a lot of changes as well. Like,
yeah.
Realistically, on a match day, we're not going to be changing team around so
No,
much.
you won't,
so.
exactly. I think Premier League, we play like we did against Villa the other day. In the Premier League, they ain't beating us. I reckon. I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 shots on target before they even got in our half. And like I say, you know, Meslier deserves an absolute crown for those saves against. Was it Coutinho that took the penalty? Jesus.
Yeah.
Saving the
And
first.
serve against Watkins as well.
One-on-one with
my
Watkins,
God.
incredible.
The one-on-one with Watkins was phenomenal. And again, Meslier slipped up so much last season. And he did. Everybody did. Calv did. Dallas did. I mean, you could go through every player. And every player had at least one mess up last season. Well, I say at least one. Probably bare minimum like 5 or 6, to be honest. You know, but that's football at the end of the day. You can't have a perfect game. And I've constantly had the conversation. I think Meslier is going to be he's so young. What is he, 21, 22?
21.
He's going to be world class. 3-4 years, he's going to be world class. Like, probably
23 years of age goalkeeper who's going into his 3rd Premiership season. Is you just won't hear that. And he did make
He's
some.
on the same. Sorry.
No, you're okay.
He's on the same sort of like trajectory as like what De Gea were on when he went to Man United as a young kid.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
But
very
De
similar-
Gea
very
before
similar.
that was terrible until he went there, and then he turned into a legend. So
I think for every mistake that he made last year, there were moments where he got us out of jail or he made a massive save at a moment that it was needed. So the thing with young players is you have to expect that they're going to make mistakes. You just hope that every week it's a different mistake and a new mistake and that they're learning from the previous ones. But for every mistake that Meslier made, there was always a game where it was like, without Meslier, we're losing that game. Like, without his saves,
Oh, God,
we
yeah.
would have lost the match. So
I mean,
he's only
what were the alternatives? You know what I mean? You don't want the alternatives for what we had on the bench.
no.
Which is
Not
why,
watching classes,
which
you
is
know,
why
major, you know.
I think we do need an experienced keeper in as well, just someone from Meslier to learn off. I'm not saying to replace Meslier as the first keeper, but just for somebody, you know, like what's his face? Foster, Ben Foster from Watford.
Yeah.
Well, he ain't playing for Watford, is he? Because last game of the season, he basically said they were all shit. So
He's out of contract. He's completely free. He's literally unattached to a club right now. He's a complete free agent.
I don't understand why we wouldn't go in for Foster, because your likes of like City ain't having him. Basically, your top 9 teams ain't going to take him because they've already got brilliant keep. Even the likes of like Everton with Pinkford. I mean,
Great keeper.
he kept him in it, didn't he? He was the one that stopped them from being relegated. It wasn't the players because they played like shit, same as Leeds. Really, it was the difference between, you know, Everton were conceding, you know, I know they did 5 against City and you know, and 5 against Tottenham and stuff, but you know, when they played the likes of sort of like Wolves and the other teams, even Man United and stuff, they were conceding 1s, 2s, whereas when we played him it was like 4s, 5s, 7 against City, which was, I mean, there's no excuse. I don't care whether you talk about injuries, this, that, and the other. There's no excuse to concede 7 goals. Yes, City are a phenomenal team. Yes, they are the best team in the Premier League. Not the best team in Europe, obviously. Sorry, that might be a touchy subject for City fans, but I don't care.
We did defense like breadcrumbs at that point last season. Like once one went in there, you're like, oh, that's it. This floodgates are
Yeah.
gonna open.
You know,
And again,
bare
it's
minimum squad. We've got a right back at centre back, and we're still trying to go toe to toe with them.
exactly.
For 90 minutes, even
Everywhere.
at 5-0 down,
So
it was suicide.
I think
really
as
good.
well, a big point of that was the way we played in the first season. Bielsa changed everything. As soon as we started pre-season and we were man marking, I just went, we're fucked.
It's the second season with the man marking. You get away with it for a year because nobody at that level does man marking.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen. And then I think United were the first one to cop it. And when you saw Scott McTominay playing centre back, you're like, okay, he doesn't normally play there. He's usually holding midfielder for them, but they're starting him centre back. And then you know what they're going to do is if he comes out with that ball on his own, that's it. If he goes past the halfway line and no one's pressed him, we're in trouble here now because now the man marking system won't work.
Yeah.
And once they did it and put 5 past us, it was a case of every other team going, cool, we know how to beat this. They can't mark both centre halves man for man, so we let one come out with the ball and that'll break up the man for man. And once that happened, it was a case of we either change the style or we're going to get found out here because better teams with better players they might not be able to outwork us, but they'll outplay us. And that's what happened. And there's a stubbornness there. You're looking at Bielsa going, it worked beautifully. We all loved the fact that it worked, but it's not working anymore. And you need to do something different or else we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on to the third point is, in my opinion, and before we move on, obviously, what I say, I'll give you both chance to obviously kind of come in with what you think, is it was kind of like the way that Harrison plays. It was like, keep playing him. He's going to come good. He's going to come good. You know, this system's going to work. It's going to work. And we're going, it's not working. And then when it works, you cheer and we win the game. But then you go, oh, shit. But now that it's worked, he ain't going to drop it. And we want him to drop it because it wasn't working. You got to go with what's consistent. At the end of the day, the Leeds players are fit, but quality-wise, no offence to any of them, quality-wise, they do not have the quality. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at that, Junior Firpo and Salah. I mean, there's no. It's light years, isn't it? At the end of there's no way that Firpo is gonna have Salah in his pocket because Junior Firpo is not a world-class player, and Salah is proven he is a world-class player. It's it's one of them things. I think that was the major issue, is that when it worked, you were happy, but then you were also unhappy because you knew that then you had to deal with it for the next 5 games. And I think you look at the likes of the top 6, like you've said before, both of you. They don't play the same against every team. When they're playing Leeds and they know we just run, they just go, score, park up, can't get past us. When they play against, say, Liverpool, they go, right, we need to pass, keep the ball away from them, keep the ball away. We want 70, 80 passes before a shot, like your Man City and your Liverpool. And Liverpool think the same thing. Whereas Leeds just went, right, just mark your man and we're fine. Which in theory, you think, yeah. But when you haven't got the quality to do that...
Once one player switches off, the whole thing's gone. It takes one player to not track his man or miss his runner or not go with him, and then the whole house of cards collapses because someone else has to move then, and then their man's not covered, and the knock-on impact is huge. But we were better last season against teams that went toe-to-toe with us, teams that wanted to come out and play against us. And that was one of the reasons. I had slight positivity against Brentford because in their place, because I thought they're going to come out and play. Brentford won't sit back to come out and play.
Well,
we have a chance.
They were Brentford pushing. Were they pushing for like top 10 or something against us? Was it?
Probably. I think they might have been. But
Thomas Frank came out and he said, like, we're going for a strong finish to the season. Like, we won't be, giving it like an end of season mentality. Like, we're gonna for the win.
Yeah.
I read into Leeds down.
Yeah. Oh well, I
a bit of revenge.
You come at us, we'll catch you on the break. We'll get in behind you. That's great. That's fantastic news. But if, as you were saying, Josh, if they decide to go, we'll get an early goal and then we'll sit back a bit and let Leeds come at us. breaks down completely. And then we just get picked off on the counter attack.
It does. Which is exactly why, like I touched on earlier on before we started recording, is that crazy stat with Bielsa that under Bielsa for his 2 seasons in the Championship and his first season in the Premier League, when Leeds were leading at half time, they never lost.
Yeah.
Because Leeds don't play to win 1-0. If we're winning 1-0, I instantly go, "Wow, this is 3 or 4. This is," and that proved in games like the Newcastle game last season. You know, we beat them. What did we beat them? We beat them 2-1 and 5-2. Not last season. Sorry, first season. Last season, we drew against them 1-1 and lost against them. Well, that's 4 points to 1 point. Still. It's massive, isn't it? It's you. And when you sit there and think, if we'd have won that Newcastle game, at least one of them that we should have done, we should have won both of them, to be honest, but at least one of them, completely different scenario at the end of the season. 100%. Completely different scenario. Oh, because Burnley would have needed to win, and all we'd have needed was a draw. Whereas, I don't care what anybody says, in that Brentford game, we needed to win because we cannot rely on other teams getting a result for us. Now, I know, ironically, when we actually got promoted, it was Huddersfield that helped us get promoted because they won. But you can't, on the last game of the season, you cannot sit there and go, well, if Burnley lose, we're all right.
No, you can't.
No, you've got to just treat it like a cup final, and you just go out and do your thing.
You should never go out with... I'm quite an avid darts player. I love playing darts, and I'm quite good at darts. And regardless of whether I'm playing somebody who I know is absolutely terrible or far better than I am, I don't play to lose. I don't play to lose, and neither should they. They shouldn't go out. And it was... my last point before we go into the third point. This is why I said at the beginning, we can just talk about it for ages. Like each little topic that I've got here today, you could probably do 3 or 4 hours on quite easily. But my last little point here is that there was some games last season, a lot actually to be fair, where you got the lineup and marching on together's playing, or the playing away. All the Leeds players, they just look defeated. They just look bruised and battered. And I completely get it with the injuries and everything that had happened. But, I mean, there was points where, I dare say, there was points where I was like, if we get relegated, it might actually be better. Because we rebuild and we go again. Because some of these players just don't look like they're... Like Rafinha, you could always say, he always had the heart for it. The passion in that man is ridiculous. For Leeds United was insane. But I dare say the likes of sort of like your Ayling and Cooper and Harrison, like some games they just thought, oh, whatever.
I don't know. I've got to defend Cooper a bit there. I feel like he was our most like valuable defender.
Last season,
yeah.
I do agree. Last season, he really was good. I tell you something though. First season in the Premier League we played, I wanted him sold. I thought he was horrendous.
I've said it loads of times about Cooper, even in the Championship, going, we need to get a better centre half from Cooper, and it's not because I don't think he's a good leader, because clearly he is. I mean, there's been 3 different managers that left the armband on him, so clearly his impact off the field is massive. It's not that he's not a good defender. He has moments where he's cool as a cucumber and wins things. But then there's just those moments where Cooperisms kick in, where Liam Cooper does something very Liam Cooper in the box, or, you know, a high tackle, a follow through against Man City. Yeah. And you're going, you just didn't need to do that. You could have just left it and you'd have been fine. But it's back to that point of, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He gives a damn more than anybody else does. He'll put everything on the line to get it. Sometimes it spills over and it goes against him, but you can't deny that the guy gives a shit about this club and that he wants this club to do well and he wants to be part of that.
And I think I've learned to appreciate that. I think now is what I'm getting at, is I've learned to kind of not forgive the mistakes, because as such a seasoned player for Leeds, I mean, he's been there like 6 years now. This will be going into his 6th, 7th year. Like, that shouldn't be happening. But at the same time, I've got to commend him sort of last season with him on and off for his injuries. The games that he's played, he has been quite crucial in defensive plays, which is exactly what his role is. I think the first season, because we were genuinely in no worry about getting relegated, I think you start picking on players a bit more. So you go, right, if we're 9th this season, we want to be challenging for Europe next season. He needs to go, he needs to go, he needs to go, he needs to go. And then what actually happened is because of all the bad luck that we had, it was a good job that we did have the likes of Cooper and your Harrison and stuff like that kept us in it. You know, I dare say, you know, some of the stuff that Cooper did, it's kept us in it. So, but I mean, again,
he had a huge impact when he came back, and that was when I saw a different version of Liam Cooper when he came back into the squad at a point where morale was in the toilet at that point, and you didn't think there was any hope of us digging out. And he put in some massive performances, absolutely huge performances, and they were needed. You know, especially the games on the running as well. Like I always thought, especially going to start last season, my ideal partnership at the back would be Llorente and Koch. That's the two I would love to see.
Yeah.
And then you got to the end of the season, you saw Cooper come back and you're like, oh, please God, let Cooper be ready this weekend. We need him back in the team. Yeah. Like you're looking at what was there and going, well, maybe it wasn't that good before him or after him. Let's just double down and stick with him. But he's been great. The worry about Cooper is now that he hasn't had a preseason this year. He's still injured. I think he did his hamstring on a treadmill, they said today.
Yeah.
In off season, so he has had 0 preseason. We're only going to start the season. That's the only concern for me with him now.
Okie dokie. Right, no worries. The 4th topic, I mean, I only need to say 2 words. I know that Jer's already done, but, you know, we'll see. Zapping there, Harrison. In your opinion, Bradley, what do you think?
Instantly, just as Leeds fans, naturally, we start running away with things. And I myself, before really sitting and thinking about it, you think, why ain't he just turning around and saying, no, I want to play for Leeds? But like and earlier on, you know, it's like he's been fully caught off with the question. So, and also, like, somebody made an interesting point on Twitter as well, saying, like, Harrison will be media trained, so it could even be instructions from his agent where, you know, he might have no intention of leaving whatsoever, but if, you know, Newcastle want to come in and take him away, you know, like, it kind of puts other teams on, like, red alert. You know, if he's on their radar, it's like, oh, well, hang on, it, like, creates that, like, interest and fear of missing out sort of thing. So,
well,
for me, it's one of 2 things. It's either his media just, you know, playing it down and we'll see, but we've obviously lost his heads, or be just genuinely fully, like, caught out with the question. So he don't strike me as that is like wanting out, you know. So
I'll let you continue, but I don't know if you saw on Twitter today, Newcastle came in with a bid for 26 million and Leeds instantly rejected that.
Saying second one,
24, I saw.
Yeah, I saw 18, and I'm like,
oh, did it?
Laugh with this. I think it was 24 million euro and then 18 million pound. I'm like, are you having a laugh with this?
Yeah. So Leeds have basically, I think Leeds have kind of come forward and said they won't let him go for anything less than 35 mil. So,
if Newcastle did come in with a bid for 35, that was good as Harrison for 35 million.
That's the point, though, isn't it?
I get what you're saying.
It was before we sold Raff and before we sold Phillips, and we'd gone back just after the season. Someone said to me, "You get 35 million for Jack Harrison. Would you sell him?" I was like, "Sell him in the morning. Like, if we can get 35 million for Jack Harrison, that's way more than we paid for him."
If you'd have said to me about 5 games in to last season, I'll give you 35 mil for Jack Harrison, I'd have been like, take him, yeah.
You finished the sentence, I would have had him in your back garden. Like, it would have been that quick. You know, it would have been.
I'd have even wrapped him and put a bow on him for you.
I think Jack's a really good player. Like, but there was games last season where he was just anonymous. Now, the goals he got were huge. They were massive. I mean, especially the last one he got last season. Like, I won't take out his contribution in terms of assists and goals, but he loses if you're comparing with someone like Rafinha or even older wingers that we have, he loses the ball an awful lot more than other players. We turn over possession a lot of times when he has the ball, and you're kind of going, if we can get someone that can control the ball or look after it. Sometimes he just tries to do it on his own. You're thinking
he was very hot potato. Do you not think a bit like
But then when you look at what's gone out the door, you're thinking, and I said it on Twitter today to somebody that it's too late in the window now for him to go. And there's still 3 weeks left or whatever left in the window. But Marsh
Yeah.
has him with him. He's gone through his preseason plans. He's building his shape and his style of play now. And Harrison seems to be very, very much in that starting 11 group.
Yeah, and not
There's
to
no way.
mention how key he was in the kit. Obviously, we've discussed that we'll do this in another video with the kits, but how prevalent he was in the kit reveal video. It was very much centered around Harrison. And, you know, you had Gelhart in there and you had Koch in there as well, but it was very Harrison-driven.
What I'll also say is, in the Villa game, he played left back in the first half of the Villa game.
Amazing.
He was excellent there.
He was so good, which is why I nearly said it earlier on, to be fair, when you said we still need a left back, and I was like, I really like Harrison at left back. I think that is really his role, because, I mean, obviously you'd need a few more games to really kind of build up but the fact that he played left back against if he'd have done it against Blackpool or Brisbane, you'd have been like, oh yeah, he played well, but it's Blackpool and Brisbane. But Villa are a good team, you know. Gerrard's a great manager, legendary player, great manager. You know, the fact that he played so well against a team that we're gonna be playing this season, I think if he plays in that role, that might be the role for him, to be honest.
I think for me, if it were out of two people, you know, like you've got two people in your squad, we're not going to sign a left back. It's Dan James or Harrison. For me, it's Dan James. I feel like Harrison, yeah, he's played well, but I feel like in an actual Premier League game, you know, you look at the likes of the teams we've got to play if he's going to be playing at left back. You know, like Chelsea, one of them for an example. And I just think lack of like left back experience, you know, in Premier League on a match day could eventually get him caught out. And I feel like Dan James is a bit more aggressive, like when he's pressing and stuff. And also feel like for what Dan James would lose in terms of positioning and stuff, he could compensate for with his speed to, you know, get back. I feel like if with Harrison at left back, we're gonna struggle.
Well, as you said, like we don't know what he's gonna be like there in a proper game or in a proper run of games in the season. But just from the Villa game alone, I thought he did okay. One of the big things was he seemed to be coming onto the ball in the very advanced areas, but coming onto it where there was no players around him. Like the winger had taken the fullback away, and all of a sudden you just saw Harrison fly past him, and then there was no one to take on. So crosses came in, and I really like Dan James playing on the right as well. I thought Dan James looked as dangerous as he had ever looked for Leeds playing on the right hand side. But if you look at that squad as a whole right now, I don't think you can sell Jack Harrison. I think even from a squad depth perception, he gives you too much in terms of goals and delivery from crosses, corners especially. I really don't think you can let him go at this point. And again, I think you got 1 goal less or 2 goals less than Rafinha last season, and maybe 1 or 2 assists less, and you're going to sell him for £18 million or £24 million. Like,
yeah,
Newcastle's supposed to have all this money now. If you've got all that money and you really, really want them, you put something silly on the table.
To give Newcastle their due, they have got all this money. But what I really like that Newcastle are doing, and obviously we won't touch on this too much, obviously, with it being a Leeds podcast, but what I like that Newcastle are doing is, even though they've got basically unlimited amounts of money, obviously with the financial fair play and stuff, they had like an extra 200 million to spend than any other team. They're not going, you know, they're going, we'll give you 18 for Harrison. No. Okay, we'll give you 24. No. Okay, we'll give you 26. No. If they then go, right, we'll go somewhere else. They've been very clever with their signings because they're not spending more than they need to, for lack of a better sort of sentence. Like, they're being very clever, is that they know what people are worth. In my head, I think we start this season and we start well, which I think out the gate, Leeds just need to come out like they did in the first season. I mean, losing 4-3 to Liverpool in the first season when they just won the Premier League. I mean, even the Liverpool players looked like they were going, what the fuck is happening here? They've just been promoted. It's like Liverpool 1-0, Leeds 1-1. Liverpool 2-1, Leeds 2. And the goals that Leeds scored, I mean, that goal that Click scored to make it 3-3 was an absolute blinder, off the chest, half volley, bang. It was brilliant. If Leeds come out the gate and Harrison performs, you think in the summer transfer window, that fee goes from 35 million to 45 million. If he has a good season, like a good first half of the season, you think about how much that would go up. I mean, we bought Raf for what was it, about 8 million or something like that? It was
17.
17 million. Sorry, yeah, 17 million, and we sold him for near 60 million. It's clearly he just had that potential in him, and I was having this conversation, obviously, again with my brother and father-in-law, who I watch all the games with. Our first season in the Premier League, we kept saying how Harrison probably had the best touch of any Premier League player. Any Premier League player. In that first season, I'd have begged anybody to tell me who had a better touch than Harrison. The touch, and it always sticks in my mind, Newcastle, when we beat them 5-2, I think it was Raf that swung it from the right-hand side all the way. He's full extension, on his toes. He whacks it in, knows exactly that Rodrigo's running. Rodrigo diving header. And I'm like, if he played like that all the time, he's a 70-80 million pound player. Easy.
I don't know.
If he played like if he played like that, that's what I'm getting. You know, if he played like that all the time for a couple of seasons, if that was his consistent, just that delivery and consistently being like that over a few seasons, he'd skyrocket, absolutely skyrocket. When you're paying like 100 million for Grealish, would you really say that Grealish is worth 100 million?
That's not how it works, though, is it?
No,
At the end of the day,
it's not.
But Calvin's not worth 70 either. But
no. Well, Grealish breaks the transfer market completely, because then and I made the point on Twitter about, well, if Nathan Ake's worth 50 million, then Calvin's worth 60 or 70. And it's those silly signings that Man City made that break the transfer completely, where you're like, well, now there's no value on a player anymore, or no one understands what a value is anymore.
Well, no.
People aren't going to throw money around, but you're looking at contract lengths as well. And if someone's got 3 or 4 years left in their contract, you can demand a higher price, and clubs, if they really want them, will pay it. When you get to 2 years in a contract, you're like, okay, next year he's into the last 12 months and he could go for nothing. Now all of a sudden the value of the player starts to nosedive pretty quickly. But I think, going back to the point on it, I think there's still too much that we get from Jack. Even if he ends up being on the bench this season and coming on, he still had double figures assists last year. He still had double figures in goals last season. You know, in the Premier League, that's not a poor player. You have to be at a certain level to at least get double figures on assists and goals. He could do better. Like we all agree on that. Like he could be a better player. And there's days where he shouldn't be in the team, and then there's days where he's best player on the park. But at this point of the season, I think if you sell him now, you disrupt whatever Jesse Marsh is trying to do with that team, and I think you disrupt that completely. For me, I don't see it happening. I think it would take silly money. I think if they bid 35-40 million for him, maybe. Yeah. But Leeds would want to have a very good replacement lined up. And to your point, Bradley, like, I don't know if that's out there right now. I don't know if there's a player out there that we can get that's either at the same level as Jack or better than him for the same amount of money. And I don't. And a club that's willing to sell a player of that quality for that amount of money, I don't think that's out there.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, because it works in transition both ways, doesn't it? Because you're saying that at the moment you wouldn't say that Harrison is worth 35 million, no offence to the bloke, but then could we get somebody in for the same quality for 35 million? So in transition we're kind of saying, well, he kind of is worth 35 million because we can't get a player in for the same price, which is, like you say, I mean, you've hit the nail straight on the head there, that you got to, like, you look at the likes of Rafinha. Well, Chelsea came in with a higher bid than Barcelona. So if Leeds were all about money, money, we'd have sold him to Chelsea. But they take into consideration the passion and what players have done for the team. I mean, Rafinha, you could argue that Rafinha is one of the main points of why we stayed up last season. Massively.
Well, without his goals, we go down.
Exactly. So, yeah, I get completely what you're saying. Because when Phillips went to, and I know I said we wouldn't touch on this, but I knew we would do eventually, but...
knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming, you know. Man City don't need him. And I don't mean that as a slag off to Phillips. Man City don't need Phillips. Now, I completely understand why he's gone, and I wish him the absolute best of luck, and I'll cheer him on, apart from when he plays Leeds, in which case I want Rasmus to knock him on his ass. But I just didn't think that they needed Calv. Now, I know with who they had going out, Calv slots in very, very well to the Man City side. And, Jay, you mentioned earlier on about he's played for Bielsa, and Pep is basically Bielsa on another level. So, basically, what I'm trying to say is all I hope is that Phillips going to City, it really unlocks the player that we all know he can be, rather than be that player that sits on the bench every week. I won't want that for him.
I think a lot of people get like a bit of a surprise. Like a lot of other clubs are kind of playing it down, saying, "Oh, he's average" and stuff like that. But you look how good he was in our side, where we constantly have to defend. City are a side that absolutely dominate the ball and stuff. So I think you can actually see from like point of view what he's actually got in terms of like range of passing, like moving the ball and stuff. I feel like he'll be a consistent player. He might not start every game, but he'll definitely start game in the League and Champions League. He won't sit on the bench every week.
I tell you what, he'll start against Leeds. I tell you that right now. He'll start against Leeds
as well.
There's a thing about though as well is there's very few players play every game for Man City. They have 2 players in every single position of a high level. Like the Manchester City backup team could probably qualify for Europe pretty comfortably in the Premier League. Anyway.
Oh God, yeah, I've said Man City would have 3 teams that would finish in the top 6.
Yeah, I would say that even though they're under 23 side, they're a cracking team. We've seen it with us signing JB. Like he looks like a ready-made Premier League player, and he was sitting in their under 23 team. Like But if you look at Calvin, he'll play 25 games a season in the Premier League. He'll probably play some more European games. And again, Bradley, to your point, they're not going to be sitting on their 18-yard line trying to defend a 1-goal lead. Like they're going to be pushing to get ahead of things. Calvin Phillips' long-range passing is, in my opinion, second to none. Like
it's amazing.
You see balls being pinged over the top of the back 4 for Haaland to run onto and score. Like I can just see that happening all the time. The difference with him there in last season with Leeds for me is with the Bielsa system, he was the quarterback. He was the deep line number 6. He could sit in front of the back 4, and everything went through him. Every move started with Calvin. Jesse Marsh's system doesn't play with quarterback and doesn't play with a sit number 6. It plays with 2. And now all of a sudden, Calvin's been asked to do a different job. Man City play with a 6, a deep lying 6. So he's got a direct position, and Pep starts games very similar to how Bielsa does. Comes out from the back 4 straight into your 6, and then the game starts from there. So I can see Calvin slotting in there perfectly into how they play. It's a different question if they change their manager and change their style, because I don't think Calvin suited Jesse Marsh's system. I think when he came back at the end of last season, he struggled because it was just a whole new system. But given where he's gone, and given how they play, and given the manager and the players that he has around him, I can't see Calvin being anything but a massive success at Man City.
Yeah.
And again, we could have lost him 3 years ago for a lot less money, and he stuck with us to help us get us out of the Championship, and he stuck with us in our first year in the Premier League. He could have gone last year as well, and he didn't. I think he's I don't like saying it, he's due to move to go and compete. Calvin Phillips should play in Champions League football. I can see in 4 years' time, maybe him coming back to us on a free transfer, or 5 years' time coming back on a free transfer and come back to Leeds. I don't see him going anywhere else after Man City. And we can hope for that. But I think that's one of the moves. And it's Man City. It didn't overly bother me. If it had been the other crowd, that's a different conversation.
There was no way he was going there. I don't. In all honesty, I know that money talks in football massively, but you got to think, Calv is a Leeds lad and has supported Leeds, and even though now he plays for Man City, you can guarantee that he's going to be keeping up with Leeds this season, where they are, what they're doing. He's going to be in touch with the players that still play there.
He's in the WhatsApp apparently. He's still in the players' WhatsApp.
I think you see that video. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think he'll leave that. I think this is just essentially like any of us three now in the careers that we do. I constantly say, if you got a job offer to do exactly what you do now, but for another company, for twice the amount of money, for half the amount of time, if he sits on the bench, which I agree with you, I don't think he will as much, but he will significantly less. Like for Leeds, he's starting every game. Man City, he's not. So you got to do what's best for your career. That's the whole point of, yes, they're a footballer, and yes, they've got allegiance to their club, Calver's shown more than enough allegiance to Leeds because he was getting these stupid offers when we just failed for promotion in Bielsa's first season. I mean, he was getting offers from Villa, from Tottenham, from City, from Scum, and the last team in the world, if he had two options, it was either Man United or Leeds. I can hand on heart say that he would stay at Leeds.
You saw it with Villa though. Like Villa were proper serious the year we missed out on promotion. Like, they were really serious about getting him. And there was, you see it in the documentary about his nan saying to him, "If you go, I'm staying here."
What am I going to do?
And he stays. And I know Alan Smith swapped over before. And we've seen players that we thought were loyal to Leeds go and do the unthinkable thing. But there's something different about Calvin Phillips. I don't think he would ever. I don't think it was ever a serious option, especially when you look at. You've got Ronaldo screaming to get out of Manchester United, and nobody wants him, and he wants to go now. Calvin Phillips looking at that's got to go. That's not a club I want to go and play for.
I tell you something. When you sit there and think about that, I mean, you think back beginning of last season.
Saviour returning.
Manchester United signed Ronaldo. Every team in the Premier League goes, "Oh shit." What did he do?
Then it was great. It was spectacular. Terrible.
What did he do? They think they get Ronaldo in, they win the Premier League. It's amazing, and then it was so good. I do like Ronaldo as a player. Don't get me wrong, I do. I always will. But the sheer arrogance of Man United thinking, "Oh, we'll bring Ronaldo back and we're fine." I mean, Ollie was at the wheel for the most part, and we also saw how that went. So, I can't say the proudest day of my entire life won't be my daughter's birth, but it'll be if Man United ever get relegated. And any Leeds fan will say that. Any Leeds fan will say that. If Man United ever get relegated, that'll be the happiest day in any Leeds fan's life.
That would be funny. You can't see it though, can you?
Oh no, it's not happening. I don't. If it does, it's not in our lifetime. I would think
it would have to be a complete financial breakdown for it to happen.
Oh god,
that's the only way it would happen.
Barcelona size fuck up.
Yeah.
For them to go down.
Yeah, good luck, Raf.
One must have a wishing well somewhere with stacks of money just hidden at the bottom of it. Like, we've no money, but hang on a second, I'll go to the well and take out a few $100,000 and we're good to go for this one. But yeah. I can't believe they're still side of players.
Yeah. I tell you something, Raf going to Barcelona, I was sat there going, you've always wanted to play for him. I wish you the best of luck, but you do realise that Leeds have more money. I'm just putting that out there. Leeds have more money.
Fair. It's a valid point, and I never thought I'd hear myself say this, considering the history we have with money. But AC Milan today met with Club Brugge, and they sat down to have a face-to-face conversation with Club Brugge and Charles de Ketelaere, and they've left this evening without a deal. It wasn't done. Mancini said that it didn't go to plan, and they haven't got a bid accepted.
Whereas
Leeds still have an offer.
Yeah,
it's sitting on the table. But it's the same issue that we had with Rafinha. The player
he wants to go to Milan. Yeah,
and he hasn't said he doesn't want to play for Leeds, by the way, because there's a lot of people saying he doesn't want to come to us. He didn't say that. What he said was my preference for Milan as Champions League, right? But the fact that we're in a position where we have a higher bid sitting on a table than AC Milan, who just won Serie A last year, where we had a player like Rafinha, we're like, well, we can give you more wages and we can guarantee you money because you're not going to get paid every week with Barcelona. It's something going to happen. And then when you hear the comments coming out from Bayern Munich's committee or board saying, we don't believe that this version of Barcelona will exist in 2 years' time, you're going, why are you going there? And I know it's your dream, but that club could go bankrupt in the morning. Like, they're 1.6 billion in debt, which is
Jesus
bonkers.
That's
they owe Jared Piqué's owed, I think it's 50 million in back pay on wages, that because he agreed to take a deference on his wages last year, so they could actually register players. Frankie de Jong won't leave because they owe him a ton of money as well from
17.
That's
17
just
million they owe.
And you're buying players for 16 million.
Imagine someone owing you 17 million and they go, well, we can give you 4. And don't get me wrong, £4 million is obviously money, but I want the rest.
Buddy, if you owed me £100 and I saw you buying a Big Mac in front of me, I'd be having questions with you. Straight away. You know what I mean? Like,
I tell you something now. That's getting clipped for the TikTok. That is, if you owed me £100 and I saw you buying a Big Mac, you're in fucking trouble, son. That's all I'm saying. That analogy is fucking brilliant. That's brilliant.
Remind me to never borrow money from you, Ranger.
It's like it's like
It means I've got to eat porridge.
It's like Stewie from Family Guy. Where's my money?
Buy you a Big Mac. I'll buy you a Big Mac.
That's amazing.
I'll get
but
one of
you
the tickets where you get one for 99p.
That's cracking.
But it is. It's absolutely bonkers. Like you're looking at it going, that can't continue. That can't last. And players going, and all of a sudden you're looking at a club like Leeds going, yeah, we can bid more than Milan. We can offer more than Barcelona. We can, same with that kid that's playing at Paris Saint-Germain. There's a couple of clubs interested in him as well. And we're like, no, we can afford him. They can't. And then you look at all the stuff. I'm enjoying this because I've got a couple of friends who are West Ham fans. We're just keep nicking every player West Ham are interested in. We just keep bidding more than them. And then when you hear them say about Calvin Phillips, we offered more money than Man City. It's like, yeah, but nobody wants to play for you. That's the problem here. It's not that you've got more money. No one wants to go there.
No,
and then you look at Sonny Perkins signing for us as well. And going, he was offered 18k a week, I think, was what he was looking for at West Ham was 18 grand a week. And he just turned down West Ham and came to Leeds to play in the under-23 team. Not the first team, not be on the bench, to play for the under-23s. And you're saying that there's clearly still a level of attraction for playing for Leeds. You hear what everyone says about the atmosphere. And we've all been in Ellen Road when it's been just madness in there.
Crazy.
But if they're going to go anywhere, and I was delighted to see Rafinha look at it and go, if it's Chelsea, I stay at Leeds. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, he said in the press conference, didn't he? They said, what are you looking at to do this season? And he said, my ideal is to go to Barcelona. If not Barcelona, I stay here.
Yeah, why not? And when you look at the players we brought in, like and again, I know it's subjective, and I know it depends on all of these players clicking. But if they do, and if some of the stuff we've seen in pre-season, like that's a large amount of European players that you brought in who played at a decent level and played at European football that you brought in on top of a team that has a ton of passion and as you said, you can never question the work rate. Even players like Junior Firpo, who had an awful season last year, but he still works his backside off in matches. He still tries to cover the ground.
He
tries very hard to not get sent off, which I think must cause him head.
You got a yellow card in the first 3 minutes of the West Ham game. Come on.
But like, you look at that and you go, there's a certain work rate around
this.
He's
passionate. He's a passionate man.
Is. And you want the thing I always look at is they're the players you want at Leeds. The players that give a shit. And that will, it's not going well for me. I'm not playing my best football, but I'm still going to give you everything I have. It might not be a lot, but I'll give you everything I have. And you look at that, and you look at the players bringing in. And if you're someone like Rafinha going, they're bringing in players. They're bringing in good quality players. They're spending money finally. If I can't go to Barca, I don't want to go anywhere else. This club is on the up and it's going somewhere. And I hope it does. And I hope that Villa did it when they sold Grealish. Spurs did it when they sold Bale. They all went out and bought 4 or 5 players instead of 1. And it didn't work at those 2 clubs. And you're hoping that what Leeds doing the same thing. You're going, I hope this works. If this clicks and it looks like it might, this will be good. And there's another argument that I don't understand with transfers as well, is this thing around, we've just spent the money that we've brought in. Given our history with money and how badly we handle it, if we're only spending the money that we're bringing in transfers and the club is stable, I'm okay with that. I don't have any problem with that. It's smart buying. I think we're £1 million net spend. Yeah. Which is not bad to bring in the players we brought in. I would like to see the club go and spend now on 2 players, and push it, get it to it. I'd love to see us do it. But outside of that, I think we're in a good spot. I think the players we brought in look decent. If it goes well, losing Phillips and Rafinha may have given us a push upward in the right direction by bringing in these players as a result.
I'm going to stop it there because that segment of We'll See carried on for 28 minutes.
That's what we were talking about.
I forgot where we'll do the final topic for this evening, which, it looks like a straight question, but there's never a straight answer. So, again, Bradley, I'll start with you. Your predictions for this season?
I think, we're in the 3rd season now, and albeit we just scraped by last season, I'm scratching it off due to injuries and stubbornness and all sorts of different factors. I think I'm past a stage now thinking, I just want to stay in league. I think 3rd season now, new manager, again, a good bit of investment in the summer. I think you want to start see us kicking on now, and you want to see us finish around like 12th, 10th, just showing some sort of signs that we're on that path, to like building on top of a squad that can start challenging for 6th, 7th, 8th. I think like realistically, well, it's more optimistically. I want to say about 12th, around 12th to 14th, and then you build on top of that the summer after.
That's fair. I think that's fair. That's
it's
fair.
It's hard to say, isn't it?
It is.
I just don't want to keep saying, "Oh well, I'm happy to just stay in league," because I don't want to become like a Burnley or stuff. Now we're in it where you're just a Premier League team. You really off the note to.
I don't know if you saw TalkSport recently, but they asked Leeds fans, and I'll ask you the same question. So this is anybody watching this on YouTube now. This isn't my question. This has come from TalkSport. I thought it was a very good question. So Bradley, if I offered you now 17th place, would you take it?
No. Let's see how the season pans out. Because I think looking at the quality and the depth of the squad now, there's no reason why we can't push on for higher in league. Even if we get 2 or 3 injuries, we've got players with actual first team experience.
Well, we've got depth now, haven't we? That was the one thing that we lacked. We lacked depth, and now we've got some sort of depth. It's not necessarily very deep, like the likes of sort of Liverpool and Man United and Man City, but there's players there. There's not if Harrison goes off, who are we going to replace him with? We've got maybe not a great example, but like if Gelhardt, if Bamford goes off, we've got Gelhardt at the end of the day. And we've got people that can come in. If Dallas is still injured, but we've got somebody that's got to take in the meantime. Ayling's still injured, we've still got somebody in. So when Dallas and Ayling come back, that's only going to strengthen that rather than diminish what we've already got. So yeah, I'd say that's a fair answer. So yeah, the same question for you. Your somewhat predictions for this season.
I think Bradley's bang on the money. I think absolutely exactly what I doodled down a couple of things. It's like if everything goes well and if the new players click and if we start well and we avoid injuries, maybe 9th again. Maybe that's me being very optimistic. I think realistically, probably anything between 12th to 15th, I think is a decent season on the back of what happened last year. Again, I'm going to say a new manager and a new style because I'm taking what he said at face value for last year was a case of it's not about style, it's about getting results. And we've seen in pre-season, I think there's more indications there of a different style of play. That takes time. So I think if we can get 12th, 15th, I think that's a reasonably acceptable season. I would love a mid-table, no drama, no incidents. I would kill.
It's Leeds. It's not happening.
Something will happen. That London will go on fire. The whole thing will burn down, and the league will be cancelled. There'll be some drama next year, but I think realistically, mid-table should be fine. The big thing for me is looking at what's come up as well. We have to be better than what's come up. Like Forest, Bournemouth, Fulham. That's 3 teams that we should be better than paper. And then you're looking at Brentford are now walking into what we walked into and what Sheffield United walked into second season
syndrome.
Thomas Frank, they figured out Thomas Frank's style. If that is the case, then they might struggle. Yeah, and I think Everton are in trouble. I think Everton are in big trouble.
I think they are. I think they got very lucky. I think they got very lucky.
Yeah,
I'll give them credit. To be fair, I think out of us, Burnley and Everton, watching from fan base to good players, Everton wanted it the most, and that's why they stayed up. For me personally, I think watching them on that bank holiday weekend against Chelsea, they were great, and then after that, they just really kicked on. You could just see like how much the fan base wanted it.
Do you know what? It was that bank holiday weekend against Chelsea when Everton won. I remember watching that as a Leeds fan and just thinking, they lose that, we're fine. Yeah. Like I kept saying, like, oh, we won against West Ham, we're going to be okay. We get that win against Wolves, oh, we must be safe now. Everton lose against Chelsea, we're sound. I mean, you sit there and think, Everton lost that Chelsea game. The last day of the season, you got a 3-team swing for 18th place, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. They seem to want it more. I was fortunate enough to be at the Everton game beginning of last season. which was phenomenal. Not just because it was probably the first Leeds game I'd been to in a very, very long time, but also the fact that it was the first. What was it? It was the first Premier League game in nearly 20 years with a full stadium. So that was great. I mean, the atmosphere was insane, and we drew that 2-2, and we shouldn't have done. We should have won that game. And you sit back and you think all the way back to the first game of the season, like we won that game. It makes the last game of the season a lot less dramatic. So, but I suppose you could say that about a lot of games that we played. You know, when Gelhardt scored that late limbs goal against Norwich for us to win that 2-1, amazing feeling. But we shouldn't have put ourselves through that against Norwich.
We shouldn't have been in that position. But it's, as you say, it's the Leeds way to do things. But that was the first time I think we ever saw the Leeds way flip, where Norwich scored a late goal. You're like, that's it. That's the end of that. Now that's us down. And then all of a sudden, injury time, we scored. And you're like, okay, well, hang on a second here. That doesn't happen to us. And then it happened. I think we scored more goals after 90 minutes than any other team in the Premier League last season.
Yeah, we did. In fact, actually, to be fair, that segues really well into this, Jer. So, I put this in. I didn't think we'd get time to do it because we've been chatting for a while now. But I think that pretty much covers sort of next season. We want to stay up. We're not going to deal with 17th. Anywhere between 10th and 15th, we'd be more than happy with. I think I completely agree with that. Part of me sits there and thinks, do you know what? With the way Leeds United are, there's a major possibility for 6th. Yeah, 6th or 7th. I tell you something. 7th or 8th. I think there's the only thing we need to do is that if that's where we finish this season, we need to learn from that, and Marsh needs to learn from that. I mean, if we have Marsh all season and we finish 8th, you've got Marsh for next season. I mean, there's no question about it. If he can take a team from 7th, I mean, Bielsa. Look at Bielsa did the same thing. 15th in the Championship to nearly get an automatic promotion, to get an automatic promotion and winning the league. So if Marsh kind of follows in those footsteps, I won't complain. The only thing that I do get concerned about is that if we flukily make Europe, that's a lot of extra games you got to play. Which I don't think at this moment in time is something that we should be striving for.
Well, it's huge pressure on the board to then seriously reinvest the following year. If you manage to screw, you need to go and buy more players because the depth is better this year. But if you want to compete in Europe, you need to go down that line of the top 6. You need 2 players in every position that can compete.
Oh, easy, yeah. But anyway, what I was saying about it, segueing kind of into that. So Leeds had more late goals than any other team in the Premier League last season. Some of the things, they're not necessarily statistics, but some of the things that I've got noted down here that are really, I find really strange. So we scored, I haven't got the actual times down here, but we scored in extra time against Wolves twice. We scored in extra time against Burnley twice. Scored extra time against Brentford twice. Just looking at those sort of late limbs and scoring in extra time, obviously you also had Norwich there. You had Palace as well, obviously, with the handball with Rafinha's Brighton, yeah. Obviously, the Brighton goal on the Leeds United video that I watched wasn't on there because it was made before the Brighton game, because I went to the Brighton game and saw Strauch's header, which was phenomenal. But yeah, like you say, Brighton again, Palace obviously we did with the handball and Rafinha's penalty. To sit there and think, it's quite poetic that we're in a relegation battle with Burnley come the end of the season against a team like Brentford that have followed kind of the same footsteps as us. They've been promoted and they've had a cracking season. And we've got them last game. Not to mention, Pontus, brilliant player for Leeds, was very sad to see him go, but understood kind of the method behind it. But for us to get 2 extra time goals against Burnley, 1 to draw, I think the first game was 86th minute, and then the second game was like the 92nd minute or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I haven't written it down. To get 4 points against Burnley, who we're then in a relegation battle with, is phenomenal. But then to score an added time goal for the second time against Brentford to keep us in the Premier League is amazing. But this is the one thing I wanted to touch on before we left, and I didn't know if you probably both did know this, but you might not have thought about it because I didn't. So Jack Harrison scored Leeds' first goal in the Premier League for 17 years, and then scored the goal that kept us in the Premier League, which I thought is a little bit kind of, I'm not superstitious, but it's kind of poetic in a way. He scores the first opening goal for Leeds against Liverpool, not last season, season before, and then drills in an absolutely, yes, it took a heavy deflection, but he knew where he was going. It was going in anyway because it was going to the other side of the goal regardless. But yeah, Harrison, first goal for Leeds in the Premier League in 17 years, and then the goal that keeps us up. Again, Leeds doing strange records as per.
I don't know. I think somebody's looked a bit too much into it there, sort of thing. I don't know. The other one, like, not weird out, but like I thought, I'm sure I thought, right, do you know what makes you like think, like, yeah, the season we went down out of the Premier League, game of the season when we were already down with Charlton, and the last game we played in the Championship before coming up, that were at home to Charlton. So it was kind of like the last game we played in the Premier League to drop out of it and then spent 16 years out of it.
Yeah.
And then the last ever game we played in Championship to go back up were against Charlton.
Yeah.
I like.
That's what I'm getting at. Obviously, it's pure
things,
coincidence. Yeah, it's pure coincidence. But it's for it's you say it's pure coincidence, but it's also typically Leeds at the same time.
Leeds stuff.
Leeds doing Leeds things.
Well,
Leeds.
That's we're all Leeds, and the amount of impartial fans as well, that you can't deny that the first season that Leeds played in the Premier League, we were the most entertaining team to watch by far. Without a doubt. I mean, even you got Ian Wright, Gary Neville, all them guys saying exactly the same thing. I don't agree with how Leeds are playing, but Jesus Christ, they're entertaining to watch. They're so entertaining to watch. We were winning games 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. We were losing games, 5-4, 5-3, 5-2. I didn't think that in our second season in the Premier League we'd concede more goals than the first. That was a shock to the system. But you got to sit there and think City alone scored 11 goals against us in 2 games.
I think, is it not? I think it's something like, it's in 50s, isn't it? I think it's like 54 goals the top 6 scored past us.
Yeah.
So
crazy number.
Yeah, another thing, and again, I won't waffle, I'll let you get off. But I said earlier on about Leeds being the first team in Premier League history to be in the relegation zone on the last game and survive. But not only that, Leeds have a record for the team conceding the most amount of goals and staying up. So
we've had them for a while. Like, don't forget, we were the only team in Championship history to be top of the league at Christmas,
and not get automatic promotion. Yeah, so it can go
win the first game at playoffs and not go up
and not go up. Yeah,
you're going, this will be a doddle next week at home, and then it collapses. But then you look at like the other record, the one we need to kind of fix for next year is we had the most amount of yellow cards of any team in Premier League history last year, and we can't do that again. So they're the kind of team that we just need to get rid of that.
Firpo had 90% of them.
All 60 yellow cards for Firpo last year.
Just Firpo is always good for a yellow, isn't he? At least one a game.
I hope he comes good. I know it's against. I thought he looked very good against Blackpool. I know it's Blackpool, but I thought he looked really good against Blackpool. My fingers crossed that he comes good. But then I've been doing the same with Rodrigo for 2 seasons, going any minute now it's gonna just click and he's gonna be great.
I tell you something. Rodrigo is a good player. The one thing that frustrates me when I watch him is that they seriously need to. His distribution is absolutely shocking.
First touch isn't great.
No, that's what I mean.
It's like we've signed him a few years too late.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I completely.
Just getting
But he's
on
our
there.
highest paid player, and you just think how?
record isn't he?
Yeah. And
I need to get broke.
well, you think last season he's on more than Rafinha? Nah, not in my head.
He came in with a lot more expectation than Rafinha. He came in as Spain's number 9, had a great season in La Liga. Barcelona wanted him, and he managed to come to Leeds. Rafinha came in from the Rennes, and you're thinking,
Rennes, yeah.
Jesus, all right,
And
okay,
then-
this is a Brazilian guy, and I've heard about him, but
And then he starts for Leeds. He's Leeds' probably best player. I mean, controversially, he's one of the best players we've had in the last 20 years, and
Absolutely.
now he starts for Brazil, and it's like,
we nicked him. We 100%
oh my
stole.
god, yeah,
We took him out of
We're gonna.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier, and I think we'll have. I don't know if this is true. It's something I thought up in my head, but I feel like Southampton must look at Liverpool and think, how have we had Van Dijk? How have we had Mane? I feel like a couple of seasons we'll be thinking like, how did Rafinha play for us?
oh god,
How
yeah.
did we pick him up?
No, I completely
He's just
agree
he's
with
that
you.
good.
You'll
Raf,
also be thinking,
he's nowhere near done.
you'll also have the other thought, again, like Southampton, you'll also have the thought of going, beat Phillips, beat Rafinha. Now Gelhart's killing it. He's doing great. He's there. We brought in maybe one of these new signings since there becomes a starting going, oh, if we'd had them all there at the exact same time, we could have won the league, But it's unfortunate, but I think we're doing.
Yeah.
I think we've done all right. I think we've done all right.
I think we have. Okay, so I've got 2 more points, and then I'm going to let you go. And this is literally, I want one player. I don't want you to reiterate, because part of me wants this to stir the pot. So I'm going to ask you each, and you're probably going to either laugh or really not want to answer the question. So Bradley, I'll start with you.
Okay.
You've got 2 questions, and I want 2 players from you. Literally just players. I don't want you to explain why. Leeds, at the moment, with the squad we've got now, coming into the 22-23 season, Leeds' most underrated player.
That's a bloody good question.
It is a good question. Dallas. But just Dallas in general.
Okay. Now this is a question that might stir the shit.
I'm
Leeds.
dying to explain, but
I know.
I
I tell you what. Anybody watching on YouTube now, okay? I'm gonna get these 2 guys back, and we'll reiterate on that next time. Does that sound cool? I'll mark that down, and we'll start with that next time. So your second question: Leeds' most overrated player. Who did you say? Sorry, that cut out.
Dan James.
Dan James. Okay. Jet, Leeds' most underrated player.
I'm gonna flip it. I think Dan James. Can't tell you why, but I think it's obvious. But,
Yep.
Yeah.
And Leeds'
James.
most overrated player.
I'm getting in trouble for saying this. Bamford.
Okay. That's fine. The thing
Good
is
work.
that I'm interested to know why, so we're going to save that for another video. So we'll end the video. I'd say one of Leeds' most underrated players would be Gelhart. And again, I nearly went into why, but I'll keep that. You think you're going to get in shit, Jeff, for this? Leeds' most overrated player? Click.
Right.
And we're going to leave that for another video, or the comment section to unsubscribe to my video. But I want to thank you both very much for joining me this evening. It's been a long one here. It might not be on YouTube because of the editing, but we've had a cracking conversation. These guys will be back in the future. hopefully solidly. I'd want them on every podcast, to be honest. They've showed great support on the Twitter. I'm going to put both of their Twitter links down in the description as well. Please go and follow them on all social media platforms. DM them for whatever else they've got. Thank you guys so much for this. It's been a cracking chat, and I can't wait for the season to start. And actually, one last one before we go. Bradley, I want you to score predictions for the Wolves game, real quick.
2-1 Leeds.
2-1 Leeds. Jet?
2-1 Leeds, yeah.
I'm going 3-0 Leeds. So that's
Clean
it.
shape. Take that.
Yeah.
I'm going 3-0 Leeds. So if you like, subscribe, appreciate everything. All links for these guys' Twitter and stuff will be down below. Obviously, all of the Discord and everything. Everybody's welcome. I appreciate you all so much. You guys, thank you ever so much for joining this evening. It's been absolutely amazing. And until next time, all Leeds are we. Cheers, YouTube.